All right, joining us now, she was, of course, a former head coach at Eastern Illinois, led them to the NCAA tournament for the first time, former player, of course, was an assistant at Georgia, now the associate head coach at Texas Tech. I speak of Tara Archibald. Man, a lot's changed since the last time you came on the show.
Right? Yeah, a lot going on, but all good and feel really blessed right now.
Let's talk a little bit about that decision to leave Eastern Illinois to come to Texas Tech. We'll get to the Texas Tech side in a moment, but how hard was that to leave Eastern Illinois? Because when you were on the last time with us, it was about a year ago, you talked about building that program, led them to their first ever NCAA tournament. I would imagine that was tough. And it was a time for you there in making that tough decision. Not that you made a bet, the other side was good, but there was attachment there. What was that like for you?
No doubt, no doubt. It was extremely difficult, and maybe even harder than other people would imagine from the outside looking in. I kept saying throughout the process of trying to decide, like I felt like I was choosing between family and family, because I had grown so tight with the players and the staff and the administration at Eastern. It was just tremendous for me and my family. Eastern will always be a really special place for us. And my players were extremely near and dear to my heart. So, yeah, leaving that program was really, really difficult for me to do. But again, it was a really great opportunity to get to be with my family here in Texas. And so ultimately that's where we went. But yeah, I think people probably don't understand exactly how hard that decision was.
And that's why I wanted to open with that because I think that got lost in the shuffle a little bit. And having followed you very closely, that was that place meant a lot to you because they gave you that opportunity as a head coach to prove it. Why you're obviously a coach on the rise. Were you surprised when Jerry ended up at Texas Tech? Did you know did you think in the back of your mind, oh, he might? What if he asked me to come with him there? Like, I want take me through that process. It's been a wild summer there that you probably could never have imagined back if we spoke in May.
Yeah, it was a crazy summer for sure. In a lot of different ways. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, I guess, that he ended up at Texas Tech. It wasn't shocking that he asked me to come with because we had kind of always, I think, kept it in the back of both of our minds, that if the right opportunity presented itself for either one of us, that we would love to coach together one more time, if we were given the opportunity. And so we, had talked about that, like if it ever happened, that'd be really cool. But will it? You never know in the coaching world. And so it wasn't so much of a shock. Well, I guess it was a little bit of a shock that he called after, because I honestly, when I found out that he was interested in the job, and obviously we talk every day and he's talking to me about the process, I think we both thought in the back of our heads that it probably might not be an option for me to come with at Texas Tech. And so then when he got all the way through and decided he was going to accept the position, and then found out, oh, it would be an opportunity for me to come with, that might have been a little bit of a shock because I didn't think it was going to. But the actual move itself of us being able to coach together, had kind of always been a goal for both of us, I think, again. And so it was a blessing for that to be able to happen.
What made this Texas Tech the right move, the right time to unite or reunite? Because you mentioned it, and I remember he at a press conference, and I even talked to him a little bit after that, and he's like, I don't know what she's going to do. He didn't want to put any pressure on you. Like, this was your decision. It's not like, so take me through that process when he reaches out to you, like, hey, I'd like you to come with me to Lubbock, because I'm sure you did your homework before making this decision because you were happy at Eastern Illinois.
1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. And again, because I was so happy at Eastern, because I felt like our program was in a really, really good place there, and 2 championships the last 2 years, and I thought we're in a spot to be able to continue that, and just like a roster that I absolutely love to go work with every day, and administrators that I love to work with every day. So it was definitely something that was hard for me to draw away from. And I tease all the time. I'm like, he pulled a total Jerry Glasco recruiting move on me too. to make it happen. And he's good at that, as we all know. But in the end, the resources that Texas Tech provided, the program and the ability to build something special, and compete for championships here at this level as well. And then ultimately just the ability to work with my dad and to be with my mom and to have my children around my parents as well. It was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
So I'm curious, and for those that may not be aware, you two have coached together before at Georgia, but that was like over close to a decade ago. Believe it or not, time flies.
That
Uh,
shocks me when I think about it.
isn't
Yeah.
it? Isn't it like how? Because I would imagine you're both different now than you were back then. Even though, I mean, and obviously you always spent a lot of time together, so it's not like you're strangers to each other. But from a coaching standpoint, you're probably a different person today than you were 5, 10 years ago. So how is that going to evolve into this reunion this time around? Because you do have head coaching experience. You do know what a head coach thinks about. I know you're going to be the pitching coach, but I would imagine you have other things that, like for example, like will he run third base? Will you be the third base coach? I said things like that now might become a discussion whether that may not have been the case, say 5, 8 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And I know I can speak for myself. I'm obviously a very, very different coach than I was however many years ago at Georgia. And I think having that head coaching experience allows me to bring a lot more to the table as well. And yeah, we'll have to maybe develop some new rhythms now this time around than we did the first. And the first time around, we were both assistants as well. We also coached together at the travel ball level as well. And
Yeah.
so we had that experience also. But yeah, we'll have to develop some new rhythms this time around. But I think it's only for the better. I think the experiences that we've both had along the way, have made us both a lot better coaches than we were 10 years ago, and excited to see what that looks like when we put it all together this fall.
How is he different today than he was when you coached with him at Travel Ball or even at Georgia? You mentioned he gave you the Gerry Glasco recruiting pitch to get you to come. How's he different today?
That's a good question. Just a lot more experience, I guess,
Yeah.
right? At the collegiate level, a lot more experience recruiting, as you speak of, and the relationships he's built over the past 10 years to help him be able to do that. I think, everything our family's been through probably made us both more empathetic and sympathetic coaches as well, and more built on relationships over the last 10 years. But probably more than anything, just the experience that we've gathered throughout competition in the last 10 years.
Take me through the first time you visited the campus in Lubbock. And it's like, I would imagine that was like, it probably felt at that point, yeah, this is where I need to be. Take me through that once you came there, visited, and like checked out the campus and everything that kind of it provides.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was blown away by the facilities and the resources and the investment to softball, and just the resources that the athletes have, but then also the resources that we would have as a coaching staff to be able to run a program. And then Lubbock as a whole, I think we've talked about this a lot in the last couple of months, but I know when I thought Lubbock, right, and everything, I'm like, it's kind of middle of nowhere, nothing's there. Like, is that somewhere my family can be happy? And when I got here, I was blown away by just the amenities in the town and the schools for my children, and everything it has to provide, and then just the excitement of the athletic department in general, not just softball but the athletic department in general. There's a whole lot of excitement around Texas Tech athletics right now, and that was very intriguing as well.
How much adjustment is this now for you as a coach? Like the last 5 years, you've been the head coach. Now you're an associate head coach, working for Jerry. How much of an adjustment is that for you? Is it an adjustment at all from that standpoint? Take me through that process now as it's evolving now and as you're building relationship with your players, but especially your pitchers.
Yeah, I think definitely it's going to be an adjustment, but I think only in the best way possible, right? I think I'm going to have to learn new roles from a sense of maybe the day-to-day activities and things that we're doing in the office and things on the field. I'm really excited to be able to dive back into the bullpen even more, and build relationships with the pitchers even more and not be pulled away from that as a head coach quite as much. I enjoy that part of what I do, and I'm excited to get to be in the bullpen a little bit more maybe. Um, but yeah, there'll definitely be different day-to-day things that I have to do or don't have to do. And we're gonna find a way to balance that out. I know Dad is looking to really get back into the hitting side of things again as well, and take the lead as a hitting coach. He hasn't done that for a little bit, and so with that, I'll take on some of the head coach responsibilities from the paperwork side of things and that as well. So there's going to be a balance there, but yeah, it's gonna be different, and I'm looking forward to that.
When you're both coached together, is it it's such a fascinating dynamic because you're going to have disagreements probably, and maybe you're more comfortable to disagree with him than maybe some other coach might be because you know him so well, and he might, take me through that. There's that evolve because you know this, having been a head coach now. There might be times where the assistants say, "Hey, I don't know if that's a great idea," or "Hey, maybe have you thought about this?" That's part of the role as well. So now, do you feel in that regard as well? What is that going to be like from that standpoint, where he might have a certain idea, but you might have a different idea?
Yeah, I definitely, that's a thing, right? And I think coming from a head coach's standpoint, you want that,
Yeah,
right? Like I craved that as a head coach. Like give me a different perspective. Tell me, like I may not go with it, but at least present it to me so that I can see the other side. And I think that's something that an area we work really well together in, is that we feel really comfortable presenting the other option, presenting a different idea, and our feelings aren't going to get hurt if it doesn't get accepted, but yet we can help each other see the full picture, right? To see the whole thing. And we've done that honestly for the last 5 years. Like even while I was at Eastern and he was at UL, we were constantly talking, and I wanted him to call me and say, "Hey, look, you did this and this in your game yesterday. What do you think about what would have happened with this lineup? Or what would have happened if you would have made this pitching change," or whatever that is, because it just gives a different perspective. And then I'm able to do the same thing for him. And I think that really helps both of us. And so now, obviously, it's going to be at an even deeper level with it being our program all the way around. But I think that's part of what's going to make us so successful, is that we're comfortable having those hard conversations, challenging each other a little bit, and helping each other make sure we're thinking of all the options and not just doing what's comfortable.
that's a great point because you both have been head coaches now the last 5 years at the same time, and you've had these conversations. It's almost like a continuation, only to be in person versus being on the phone. I never thought of it that way. That's a great point. That's fantastic. Tell me about how now you are building the relationship with your pitchers. You got a lot of variety there, some transfers, some veterans, but some youngsters, freshmen coming in. So take me through what's that been like for you as you learn each pitcher you have on your roster.
Yeah, so just initially just reaching out and trying to get to know them a little bit, building the relationship, whether it's on the phone or texting or FaceTime. Hard because they're not on campus yet. Very excited for them to get here and be able to continue that in person. Um, and then just trying to watch them pitch, right? And see them compete, how they like to compete, especially the youngsters. I was able to get out to Alliance Nationals and see Sam and Brindley in action, and that was exciting to get to watch them pitch and compete with their travel ball teams. They both had a really good summer. And so just to kind of get to know them, talking to their pitching coaches, people who've worked with them, what do they like, what makes them tick, what makes them, what do they need to work on, what are their strengths, those kind of things. And then with the transfers, same as well. Chloe's kind of fun because I've watched her pitch from a distance for 5 years, right? Like obviously I watched UL really closely as a fan. I wasn't by any means studying their film, but I've watched Chloe pitch probably almost every game she's thrown for the past couple years. So I feel like I have some good insight on her. And then obviously recently getting to know NiJaree and getting to spend time with her and get to know kind of where she's at and what she's working on and what we want to continue with her as well. So yeah, right now it's kind of hard because you're at a distance, and so it's limited to phone and FaceTime and calls and texts. But when they get here, we'll dive into that heavily. And that's something I really pride myself on as a pitching coach. I really like to have great relationships with my pitchers and really get to know them well. So I'm excited for that part.
Are you happy with the size of the staff that you've inherited here? I think, what is it, 5 arms you got?
Yeah, 5 arms. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. We have a lot of variety. Righties, lefties, upspin, downspin, hard velo, slower velo. So I think we've got a great variety, and I think it gives me the opportunity to really spend a lot of time with each one of them, and pour into them and make their strengths stronger. So yeah, we're excited about it.
How much too do you get to know the rest of the roster? Because you mentioned there's gonna be a lot of new faces. Does that help too in the process that you're not the only new face here? Jerry's obviously there's some new faces that follow Jerry, some freshmen, the freshman class, which has been very touted very much. Does that help that there's a lot of that you're not like taking over somebody that's been playing there for X amount of years, for example, that maybe are used to a certain way?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. We keep saying it's gonna be a team building fall, no doubt, right? Like we've got a lot of work to do to get to know each other, to build relationships, not only with the staff, but with the players within themselves. And but that'll be fun. That'll be exciting. And I think we're all just really eager to get here and dive into that. But definitely probably makes it a lot easier that we're all kind of new and getting to know each other.
You mentioned Chloe. You watched her as a fan because you obviously follow Louisiana, want to see closely. Does that help you in getting to know her and knowing what her mechanics? Is that something that you just kind of will you go back to that? Will you just say no? I'm just going to learn based on what I see with my own 2 eyes in person with her.
I think it helps me because it gives me a background of who Chloe is as a competitor. Like Chloe is a fierce competitor. She's a kid that wants the ball in the biggest of games, and competes for her team really, really hard. And so I think having that background is good. And then it's just going from there and letting her kind of tell me like, okay, here's what I feel like I need to work on. Here's what I feel like my strengths are. How can I help her become just a little bit better, right? And so, but I think having that background of who she is and the type of competitor she is and the type of teammate she is, definitely helps.
Well, of course, the pitcher that everybody's talked about, NiJaree Canady. Everybody expects me to ask you about her, so I will. From your point of view, take me through that journey as she's making her decision and she ends up deciding I'm going to come play for Texas Tech, and the interaction you mentioned you've had with her since.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was absolutely blown away by Nija as a person. Just an incredible teammate, an incredibly empathetic human who is constantly always thinking about other people, and how her decisions affect other people, and a fierce competitor who wants to be the best version of herself that she could possibly be, and wants to win and wants to be on a team surrounded by individuals who want the same thing. And I just was blown away by her maturity, by her just the human she was, and just really enjoyed getting to know her.
What was it like when you talked to her? And you mentioned you were blown away by her. What did she ask you questions as far as yours? Because now you two are going to get to know each other from that standpoint. And here's somebody that is the reigning national pitcher player of the year. So there's that uniqueness that, well, she's the best player, but yet maybe there's things we could even still work to even make it better because she wants to hit, from what I understand. That was a big draw too. She's going to hit more with Jerry, obviously in that offense, in that lineup. So you might have to share her as far as the pitching responsibilities with the offense. So what is those conversations taking place, or what is that like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it just all started off just getting to know each other as people, right?
Yeah.
Like, just a really good conversation of, you know, who we are as people, what we do off the field, what our goals are, And I want to say, like, I think we really clicked right off the bat, you know, like the first conversation we had, I looked down and it's like an hour later and don't even realize it. Right. And that's a lot for her and who she is as a person, and, you know, how easy the conversation was. But yeah, it was a lot of that. And then it was kind of, you know, okay, obviously she's she's accomplished a lot, right, to say the least. And so, you know, what are your goals moving forward? What do you think it takes to get there? How can we help along the way? And what ideas do we have in that area as well? And then, yeah, like you said, she definitely wants to hit. She's going to hit. And so talking about what does that look like? How do we plan for that? How can we plan practices and workouts and make sure that we're balancing that and keeping her healthy at the same time, but getting her the reps she needs for both. And we talked about that a little bit. And obviously there'll be ebbs and flows to that as we get into the fall and start working through that a little bit. But we're really excited about that, and excited to give her the opportunity to develop on that side of the ball as well.
We've talked in the past. Communication is very key to you as far as with your pitchers, knowing how they feel, getting a sense on, picking their brain. Hey, what do you think about this? You're not one that's just going to say, hey, you got to do this or that, because everybody's different. And you mentioned maybe that's where you maybe being back in the bullpen, that's where that also develops. Is that the key, not just with NiJaree, but with the rest of the staff as well? Is that have that open communication where she can come to you if she's got a question or is saying, hey, what do you, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Is that where that's a key factor you're building here in the next few months?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a key factor to the way I coach with any athlete. I'm just really big on kind of letting athletes control, to a sense of like they know their bodies better than anybody else, right? And if something's not working for them, then we need to find a new way to do it. And I think what works for one athlete's not always going to work for another athlete. And having that open line of communication and trust and feeling comfortable with each other, to be able to have the hard conversations of like, hey, look, that bullpen, I don't think that went very well. Can we adjust this or can we try something else? Because what the drills that work for Chloe probably won't be the drills that work for NiJaree. And we have to be able to adjust that and use that to make them both the best version of themselves. So yeah, no doubt. The relationship piece is going to be huge with all of them. And again, probably the part I enjoy most about my job. And so I'm really excited about that.
How much communication has been with NiJaree about you don't have to do it by yourself? You've got a staff. You got Chloe, who is a proven pitcher, who would have been the ace on this team, who's won big games at Louisiana. Has that been a message that you've sent to NiJaree and to the rest of the staff as well to say, hey, just because NiJaree's here doesn't mean you don't have a big role coming up here on this staff?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's our goal. Like we want a pitching staff. It's only fair to our team, it's fair to Chloe, it's fair to NiJaree that like not one person has to carry the load. Multiple people can carry the load. And hopefully when we get to the heat of the Big 12, the freshmen are ready to do some of that as well. And so that's definitely the goal, is to develop them all to where they can carry us through innings when needed. And I think that definitely appeals to NiJaree, that she wants to be on a team where she can have a staff around her that can help carry some of that load as well. And so, you know, that was definitely part of the conversation. And I'll tell you a cool part through the whole thing was like Chloe Chloe wanted so badly to play with NiJaree. It was so fun. Dad and I continually talked about like, man, we better get this done because Chloe is gonna get us if we don't get this done. You know, like she would constantly text us like, "Hey, is she coming?" Like, I want like she wanted her in the bullpen with her, right? Because Chloe, again, fierce competitor, wants to win at the highest level, and she really was excited about the potential of being able to add that piece to our bullpen. And then I think mutually, we were able to connect NiJaree and Chloe, and NiJaree really hit it off well with Chloe as well, and was really excited about getting to work side by side with her. So I think that dynamic's going to be really fun. And then to watch those two veterans who have, you know, won games at the highest level and compete at the highest level, be able to pour into our young freshmen, and help develop them and bring them up throughout the year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun to watch.
And that's so important, isn't it? It's that chemistry, that bond in a pitching staff that people may not think about right away. Because when they think of the pitchers, hey, it's an individual. You're in the circle. It's the ball's in your hands every pitch. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody gets that, but that that support system, it's got to come from the fellow pitchers because they're only they can relate to each other. It sounds like you're developing that right there is a great example there with Chloe, wanting with NiJaree, and I would imagine the freshmen take some of the pressure off. They can learn from two that's it's done it at a high level.
Yeah, I think it works well for everyone, and I also think like it has to happen, right? Like I think for one to be successful, they really need the others to pour into them and work together, as a whole. And so that's something we're going to definitely develop over the fall, but I don't think it's going to be hard. I think they all naturally are drawn to that bullpen mentality and having a staff.
For those that may not be familiar with your work, describe your coaching style and philosophy.
Yeah, so I think I'm just very player driven. I think I'm very player focused, relationship focused, and want to connect and build trust and relationships with my players to help them each become the best version of themselves, to help the team become the best version of itself and compete at the highest level possible. And so I think people would describe me very competitive, very passionate, very energetic, probably on the field. But the favorite part of the job is building the connections and the relationships and helping the players become the best versions of themselves.
How has been being a head coach and a successful one at that the last 5 seasons make you now maybe even a better pitching coach today? How are you a different pitching coach now than you were prior to your run at Eastern Illinois as a head coach? Because you were a pitching coach and a successful one prior to that landed you the Eastern Illinois head coaching job. How does those last 5 years now maybe there's some things you learned as a head coach that you'll apply as a pitching coach now?
Yeah, I think the experience I've had over the last 5 to 10 years, I've learned a lot. I've probably made a lot of mistakes along the way, looking back on it of, just growing pains and figuring things out and learning who I am as a pitching coach. But I feel really confident in that right now. I feel confident in the ability to be able to help each pitcher kind of come up with a plan to become their best in different ways. And so I think that's going to help me a lot. And then I think being a head coach, I understand the big picture for the team a whole lot better as well, and how the bullpen plays into that. And being able to develop that from the bullpen up, right, and help create that. Definitely, having a head coach's perspective, I guess, in the bullpen and throughout the pitching staff, I think it can't hurt for sure.
You'll be in the Big 12. What's that like being in a new conference, a power conference? How much do you study the teams in the conference? Is that something you even pay? I'm fascinated by that because he's got to do the same thing, learning a Big 12 with some of the mainstays and even some of the new members in the league. So what is that process like from a coaching staff standpoint?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Obviously, the conference is new to a lot of people right now and ever changing. But yeah, there'll definitely be some film study and trying to, get a feel for who are the teams we're competing against, what do we have to do to be able to compete with those teams? What do we need to develop over the fall to be able to compete with those teams? And then just excited to get after it and see what it looks like and learn as we go. But being a fan of softball, I think you can't help but be excited to compete in the Big 12, and the excitement of the conference is really really up there right now, and to be a part of it is special.
Texas Tech's never won a regional, never been to the World Series. I know that is a goal. Is that something that is talked about? Do you block all that out? Because there's going to be a lot of expectations. Season tickets going through the roof in Lubbock as we speak. Do you block all that out? Do you embrace that as a coaching staff to your players? How do you approach that?
I definitely don't think you block it out. I think it's a privilege that's a conversation, the excitement, and you're right, like there is an excitement in Lubbock right now. I was just signing up for utilities for my house a couple days ago, and the lady tells me how excited her granddaughter is to come to games, right? And so there's a buzz, there's an excitement already, and I don't think we block that out, but I think we use it as motivation and use it as inspiration to keep working and work really hard and become the best version of this team that we can become. And once we get into the daily grind, it's not something we're going to talk about every day, but we are going to use it to motivate us to work really hard and see what we can put together at the end of the year, knowing that we should have the talent and the ability to be able to do some really special things, but we got to do the work and put in the time to make it happen.
Do you feel you were destined to be a coach in softball based on what was around you? What do you think you'd be doing today if you weren't coaching softball?
Mm. Yeah, I think God definitely had it in the plans, that's for sure. I thought I was going to be a teacher. I have an elementary ed degree. Didn't use it for very long, but I have one. But I say I teach every day in the bullpen, so I'm using it. But yeah, I think softball has always been really near and dear to my heart, and to be honest, I think that's because it's been a family endeavor, and a way that my family and I have connected throughout the years, whether that was myself or my sisters playing and dad coaching. So that's the draw to me in a lot of ways, but also just because I love softball. And then to be a college coach and get to work with 18 to 22, 23-year-old women who are setting themselves up for success for the rest of their life is a pretty blessed career opportunity as well. So yeah, I think God had a plan. I don't think I knew what that was early on, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, I feel like it's meant to be. The two of you coaching again together here in a great spot at Texas Tech, where not only obviously they got great sports across the board. And you mentioned that I've been told from people there that Texas Tech fans are passionate and loyal. And it sounds like you've already kind of learned that even in a brief time there by running into people there.
Yeah, it's really honestly blew me away in the community. There's been multiple times in the last 2 weeks or whatever it is I've been here that you bump into people at the airport or the grocery store or the utilities office, and here it is, what, July, August, and they're fired up for softball season, and so that's been really fun to be a part of, and you can't help but feel blessed to to have the opportunity to be a part of that.
What other Texas Tech sport are you looking forward to checking out in person there? They've got a good men's basketball program that made the NCAA's. Football, I know they're really popular there. They have this tradition where they throw things. I'm not going to pretend I know. You're going to have to let me know what they do there. But Coach McGuire there in Texas Tech football. Baseball, Ted Tedlock has had great success there. Soccer, they've had great success. What are you looking forward to? Because I know you're one that we talked even at Eastern Illinois. You like checking out the other sports and the support for the other coaches and players and the other sports.
Yeah, and honestly, all of it, to be really honest. But yeah, this whole throwing of things at the football game, I have to see for myself. The
Yes.
first time somebody told me about that, I was like, "Wait, what? Like, explain more." But yeah, I can't wait to experience that one. And then of course, my sons are really excited to go to baseball games, and my middle son is a high jumper, and the track team at Texas Tech is best in the country right now, and High Jump U in a lot of ways called. So we're excited to go watch that. And we'll be at all the stuff. We're really excited to just be a part of it, and get to watch all the different sports compete at a really high level.
Now, when we spoke when you were at Eastern Illinois, one of the topics we hit up was, can you get Tony Romo to throw out a first pitch? That was your goal. You were working on that. Now at Texas Tech, first of all, you have more athlete options than just, I mean, nothing against the other athletes at Eastern Illinois, but Tony Romo was a clear, I think, above a lot of them. In fact, I think we talked about how they had some other famous people that were not in sports at Eastern Illinois. But here at Texas Tech, there's a lot of famous athletes like Patrick Mahomes, etc. Is that part of your responsibility as well, is try to get him out to a first pitch?
You're putting that on me, aren't you, Eric? But
I didn't know.
yeah,
I didn't know that was
hey,
your role at Eastern Illinois. I didn't know if that was still yours or you're
I,
passing that on.
I didn't do very well with that. We need to still work on that. But yeah, if Mahomes wants to come out and throw the first pitch, I think we can make that happen. So I'll get on it. I'll get on it for sure.
I'm telling you, but it's not just him. There's a lot of crude athletes coming over from Texas Tech from various sports there, which I know it's going to be pretty exciting to kind of be a part of. I want to ask you about just the last thing to let you go here. The Big 12 we talked about. It's so different now than when you first got into this, right? Like it's such a supersized league. There's more travel than ever before. What's your thoughts on where we're at overall, and how much of an adjustment is that for you? You're probably going to have to travel more this year than maybe you did in your previous stops.
Yeah, it's ever changing. It's ever changing. The business is changing by the minute, by the hour. And I think you just gotta embrace it and find a way to be successful with it. But I think there's also a lot of advantages to it as well. You know, like we're not gonna take very many bus trips. We're gonna be on planes most of the time. But hey, there's some beauty into that as well, and maybe a little easier on the athlete's body than being on a bus for multiple hours at a time. So we'll find the benefit in it for sure and make the most out of it. But it's also exciting. I think that our sport is growing by the day, and one thing with NiJaree, like that we talked about a lot, is like what her move does for female athletics and softball players as a whole. And I couldn't be more excited for softball and for young softball players than for her to carry out what she's doing for our sport. And I think, with the Big 12, like, man, we're going to get to do it in a lot of different states, right? And so I'm excited for softball. I think we're in a good place. I think we're growing. Yeah, there's some things probably we need to figure out, maybe, but I also think there's a lot of really positive things and a lot of presence on the national scene for our athletes and to get the recognition they deserve and have worked really hard to earn and maybe wasn't there a few years ago.
Yeah, it's a great point. So now, between now and then you go through the fall ball, what are some of the things you want to get accomplished with your pitching staff? Obviously, you're going to try to build a relationship. That's the big part of that. But take us through the key, because these are important months that fans don't realize. You don't just show up opening day and you go. There's a building block. So between now and December, what are some of the things you want to get accomplished with your fellow players?
Yeah, well, with the team as a whole, I think it's just really getting to know each other well and figuring out who we are as a team, what our strengths are going to be, and how we're going to win ball games and how we're going to connect together. I think that'll be the biggest part from a team perspective is just really getting to know each other and learning who we are. And then in the bullpen, pretty much the same, but on an individual level of like what does each pitcher do really well? What can we develop in each pitcher to make each pitcher unique to where we have 5 different looks to be able to throw at people, but using their best stuff to be able to do that. And then what do we need to get better at? What do we need to grow at? What do we need to develop to be able to be successful in the Big 12 next spring, and then really pouring into that this fall to develop that and make sure that we're where we need to be when we come back in January and getting ready for season. So yeah, it's kind of learning where we're at, and we're all going to be learning each other a lot this fall, and then figuring out what we're good at and pouring into that.
Well, that is going to be exciting. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of attention towards fall ball. Season tickets, from what I understand, are doing very well, so it's going to be exciting to see it all comes out. And I'm excited for you as well to be a part of it. I've always been a fan of yours, as you know. So, I'm sure if we run into each other during the year, everybody else going to be talking to Jerry and NiJaree. I'm going to just get your autograph instead. I'll just talk to you. I have other athletes, by the way. So my request for an alum is Wes Welker, who is a former wide receiver in the NFL. If we get Wes Welker, I was a Wes Welker fan, so that would be my request. If you if you ever meet Wes Welker, get his autograph for me as a former Dolphin, even though he was a longtime Patriot. I'll look past that.
All right, we'll do that. And if we get him for first pitch, then maybe you got to come throw it with him and go set.
Oh, oh, oh! There's pressure. Not sure if that works. That's a great idea or not, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I mean, Josh Young, obviously with the Texas Rangers currently, he's done pretty well. Like I said, there's a long list. I got to send you a list. I'm going to send you a list. It's a pretty amazing list of great Texas Tech athlete alums that will be continuing to grow over there. And but hey, in all seriousness, thank you so much. I know it's a hectic, busy time because you're still in the process of doing a lot of different things as far as moving and learning and doing stuff. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me and talk to us here on the show. I thought of you the moment as all this was kind of transpiring, and I'm excited for you and excited for for Jerry and everybody. Thanks for doing this. We'll catch up soon, but thanks for coming on here on In the Circle and D1 Softball.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. I always really enjoy it, and I appreciate you covering our program and what we're doing. Look forward to seeing you. And you need to come to Lubbock and go to a game this spring for sure. So